Day 4. This morning I called a meeting with many other upper-class players. Most of them were not very happy to see me, but we put our smaller conflicts aside to focus on the emergency that was happening around us. We had 40 minutes until the server opened up once more. So the 7 of us gathered in a Discord call and began discussing. It turned out that of the 7, there were only 2 that still did not believe in the severity of the explosion. The rest of us were finally taking the prophet seriously, which, after talking, we decided it was not too late. Even I thought the prophet had overestimated the time it would take to search, break, and evaporate every block and every non-renewable resource. We also started to compile a list of every single renewable resource on the server. The list was much too long to complete in the 20 minutes that we gave to it, but the progress we made was good enough. We decided to later come back to this list to identify which resources were very valuable, and what the best method to renew those resources was. The server opened up, and as usual there was an overflow of players waiting to join. I logged on the server. At this time I realized I had made a mistake. Not a grave one, but one that certainly caused an inconvenience for me. The previous night I'd logged off in the area that was decimated by the fanbase. Unfortunately, I did not pay attention to any of the messages in Discord. I had stopped ever since it had started being flooded. The players found the exact location I had logged off and were now attempting to kill me. Joining them was one of the upper-class players. Most of the players had no armor, although some were able to get some leather and chain. With the help of the steel-wearing upper-class player, they spawned me in lava with obsidian walls around me. I was able to get out of the box, but I then had a new problem of surviving around 50 players attempting to kill me. After I killed the one leading them, I was able to invoke fear into all the other players. I decided to leave before the steel wielder came back. That ordeal made me realize something very important. My status as someone even remotely related to the creator meant that I had to be very careful. Not just with where I decide to log off every night, but also anywhere combat is enabled. I did not have the motivation to gauge the severity of this issue. After I arrived at a safe area, I finally decided to put real thought into evaporation. I reached out to the other 6 upper-class players I had talked to that morning, and we decided to reconvene to figure out and predict the near future of the server. After some discussion, we reached a few conclusions. We realized that the server's random spawn teleportation system was very flawed. In an instance where the player count was not hundreds every day, like it had been for the past many years, this would not be a flaw, but instead a convenience for the player. Each time someone spawned into a level by random placement, instead they are sent out to one of many set locations in the level. This selection of locations is also random for the most part, but it meant that theoretically, after a prolonged period of time, every set location in every random teleportation system level would be searched and evaporated by the mass of players. We also found, after some research, that each set location is not determined by the player, but by the server. This meant that instead of each location being changed after a player gets sent to it, many players can get sent to the same location over multiple minutes to even hours. This was why all new players spawned in the same location when the explosion happened. The effects of this would be devastating for the mass of players. It meant that every time a player without sufficient resources went back to a certain level to acquire said resources, instead they would be met with a bedrock floor and a bedrock ceiling. This meant new players needed to travel very far out of their set locations to obtain even the most basic resources. The effects would be less damaging to the upper class, since we had stockpiles of almost every valuable resource on the server, but we knew eventually our sustainability would crumble. We were unable to find a solution to this problem at that current moment. I decided on my own to attempt to be a guardian of these locations. Later I realized the server's tri-daily consumables auction was nearing conclusion. I checked to see what item was being auctioned off. It was an item only obtainable in consumables auctions. This meant that all new attempts to claim this item would be so incredibly more competitive than they had been prior to the explosion. Fortunately, I had stocked up on these types of items. It seemed no other upper-class player had noticed this item, meaning it was still mine for the taking. I knew very well this could be my very last easy victory in the consumables auction. I knew the prices of these items would very likely skyrocket as soon as the very next day. At this time, I had a decision to make. I had decided to be a guardian of the spawn locations, but I did not know what even that had in store for me. The main divergence of conclusion I had was the class divide of the players. If I chose to hide all my wealth from the lower classes, I'd remain wealthy on the server forever, but it meant lower class players would never have any options regarding upgrading their status. The other option I had was to give to the lower class and slowly rebuild the damage caused by the explosion. This was certainly more dangerous for me, as it meant if no other upper class members wanted to reach equilibrium, I would inevitably be forced into the lower class with no way to reclaim my once glorious seat. The developer had created a system where they make daily announcements about the server at around the same time every night. Tonight they announced that they would propose a solution to player capacity while the server was down. They also kindly asked for players to donate to keep funding the server's large computation prices.